Hi there, good afternoon. Welcome to AI Under Hood. I'm Wade, and Derek Lee will join me shortly for the section. So integrating large language model can empower your solution with AI by using data. So here are key takeaways for the section. First, you will learn how to chat with database queries. And we create several script steps and calc function to fit your purpose. So you can pick one best fit for your scenario. And we continue to keep the embedding vector and the semantic search improving. So during the FileMaker 2024, we first time released the semantic search. And that one release, we include image and text semantic search with the CRIP model, the OpenAI open source model. And now we enhance it with some other function. I will share it with you shortly. And then with the embedding vector, you definitely can do more things than semantic search. For example, you can do regression. So we implement random forest algorithms for you, so you can get prediction from the regression result. And you can do the RAG, so you can chat with the document besides the chat with the database. And we integrate the open source model server with the admin API, so that's very easy your management and the setup as well. So Derek later will show you some more details. And with this, we also have an experiment, some features based on the stack we built up. So with the RAG, with the embedding vector, with the RAG, with the open source model server, Derek will show you how he built the text to calc and text to script. So you can use a natural language to create calc or script. And besides that, he can show you the reasoning we pick for that. And most of these features are in ETS, but not necessarily in the final release. And also the preview one actually not including ETS yet. So here is, first topic is a database query. So here is a big picture of what's happening inside the database engine. So when you ask him for, you use our script step to try to chat with database. So the FileMaker database engine will send the instruction which has the prompt engineering plus data definition language or layout information and plus the user prompt to LLM. So LLM processing it and will send back the SQL statement. Then the FileMaker database engine executed and send the result back to LLM. So this might happen multiple times, more than once. So until LLM satisfies everything prompt needs. So finally, the LLM will send back the result to FileMaker. So that kind of big picture for the database query. So the first script step we provide for this is perform SQL query by natural language. So this one just try to provide you a single script step. Like you only need to give it the prompt and you specify what kind of table occurrence you need and some option parameter. Then you will be able to get it running. And then on top of that is some people still consider a little bit complicated. So we build an optional add-on. So with the add-on, you can just simply use the add-on and to enjoy the feature of chat with database. Then we build another script step called generate a response from model. So this one we try to give you developer the maximum flexibility, use an agentic approach. So you define whatever prompt engineer you want, you define whatever tool you want, and you define the context memory you want. So we give you the maximum flexibility so you can kind of to decide with your logic. The first one, the perform find by natural language. This one basic is a LLM version of a create find request. I believe most of you are very familiar with the create find request. So this one basically just empower it with LLM. The difference of this one is this one is FileMaker layout centric. So it actually is stick to the layout. And there are good things about that. The thing is you can control all the data access is stick to this layout. And this one actually what we're looking for the LLM is not the SQL statement. We ask LLM to give us search spec, probably also sort spec. Sometimes it's search spec, sometimes sort spec, sometimes both. So then FileMaker database engine executed. Okay, so let's take a look at the perform SQL query by natural language. First, you need to have configure AI account for that. So here is one example. The first account name, you just name whatever name you like. The second one, the model provider. I use OpenAI as an example here. We also support Anthropic, Cohere, and Custom. If you use the open source model server, you just pick the custom and put in your endpoint. And the third one, API key, is whatever your account, the API key of the account. So for open source model server, we provide LLM key page in the web page, so you can use it to generate API key and manage API key from there. So once you execute this script step once, it will sit in the memory, the hash table inside the database engine. So until the process restart, it will be there. So you just, technically speaking, the lifespan, you just need one execute once, and then the following AI script step, we just take from there. And here is the perform SQL query by natural language. So in the example, the account, I just used the GPT account, which I configured before. I use the model GPT-4o, which is the popular model today. And the third one, the prompt, is really the user prompt. So you can direct text from variable, or you have a field for that. And then there's an option for you to pick. You can go through list one by one, or if you say you prefer, you make a JSON object with all the options, all the data definition language together. You can just stick it into it. And because the data definition language is critical for this, the script step, we handle that inside the script step. However, sometimes you might want to get the DDL by yourself. So we prepare another calc function called getTable DDL. So you can use getTable DDL, and you just specify the table occurrence you want. It will generate the DDL for you. So in case if you say the script step cannot fit all your purpose, you want to do something by yourself, feel free, just use the calc function, get DDL. And there, for the action, there are 5 actions you can have. The first one is query. Second one is a query for data only. So the difference is query for data only will give you the result directly. For example, I'm asking how many books in a library database. Say that's 100. So if you use query, it might have something like there are 100 books in library database. And query for data only will just give you back 100. Get SQL and get first SQL only, and get DDL primarily for debugging purpose. So if you want to know what kind of SQL LLM give back to you, so you can use get SQL or get first SQL, because sometimes you get multiple SQL. So we provide both for you. And get DDL just to retrieve the DDL which database engine generated for you. So to get the DDL right, then you need to specify the data tables. So To get data table, there are 3 ways to do that. You can pick from a list or from a dialog, or you can specify by name. So you can, if you have more than one table occurrence name, you just specify that and separate by the Claris return. So kind of line by line. And definitely, if you have a DDL, so you already modified, and then you can put your own DDL directly. So here your familiar specify table dialog. So you can just pick the table occurrence you want. And because some of you might have a lot of table occurrences, so we have a search bar in there. So you can do a search if there are quite a lot. So when you click the parameter, there are several parameters you can choose. The first one is streaming mode. So if you turn on streaming mode, the result will show up incrementally, the delta by delta. And if the streaming mode is off, it will send you the results all in once. But you might see the pitch board running until the result available. The prompt template name, this one is for in case if you want to need to do prompt engineering. So then you can pick the prompt template which you want. So later on, Derek will show you how to configure custom your prompt template. Parameters, that means the parameter is specific to LLM. For example, you might want to set the seed number. As you know, the LLM is probability based. So the random number generation is important. So if you want to have some kind of fixed sequence, you can set the seed number, SEED, inside. And another example is you might want, if a popular one to change in probably the sampling temperature. Normally in the document, you just see temperature. But what that means is the sampling temperature. That's a mathematical calculation for the so-called softmax. So if you need to set temperature, you can set there as well. And just remember, use the JSON format to include in the parameter. Response target is where you store the response. You can store in a field, store in a variable. And the perform JavaScript in web browser, this primarily if you need to integrate with WebDirect or with add-on with some JavaScript code. And here is if you choose option by JSON data, then you just hook JSON data in, and you can see the most of the option displayed. Okay, so let's take a quick look at demo. So now I'm on a contact database. I have this user Kate, and I double check. I make sure I have all case contact information. Now I'm going to layout mode and add an app assistant add-on. So you just drag and drop it somewhere you like. And then go back to the browse mode. So now I click the key or the setting for the add-on. So make sure I have I'm using OpenAI API key correct. And so the account, you can see a account name here, and I just pick query since I want to, and have a memory sliding window 3, and have all the table occurrences I want. So now I click the app assistant. I can start to chat with it. So first I ask what's case email. So the process that described it just goes through, and you find out the case email. Then I ask him phone number. Instead of I type English, I type Japanese, the Denhua Bango. Sorry, my pronunciation now. And you can see you got the correct phone number. So this database, technically speaking, is pure English, and all the UI, everything in English. But with the correct DDL information sent over, we're able to figure out, have a correct SQL statement and get the results. Okay, so that's it for this demo. Now I'm going to demo one of our test program with this script step. So I have a FileMaker Go, the ETS version. Some of you might have that. And I have a testing database, the IMDb, the movie database, which has a movie from 2000 and to 2017. So now I have a series shortcut to text detection. How many movies in 2017?
$805.
Who was the director of the movie Apollo 18?
Gonzalo Lopez Gallego.
Can you tell me the description of the movie Apollo 18?
In December 1974, the crew of the cancelled Apollo 18 mission.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So that's our test program. Basically, the series shortcut get my detection and give us a parameter to call the perform SQL query by natural language. And after we get a result, have another series shortcut to do the text to speech. Okay, so here is a generated response from model. So we call it LLM request with tool. So this one is we use agentic approach. So try to give you developer the maximum flexibility. So here is the script stack look like. So only the top three are necessary. Yeah. And here are the parameters. So it have quite a lot of parameters. So first one is the agentic mode. So normally I believe you will run agentic mode. What it means is the FileMaker database engine will interact with LLM. It might interact several times. So until final results. So if you want to debug it, you turn off agentic mode. It will give you the first tool response from LLM. So somebody like to say all handled by your FileMaker script, so you can do that. Or say you want to debug. So the response field like before, this is where to store the final response. And tool call from model actually is different from response. Tool call from model because the tool is to store those intermediate tool call results in there. So that might be good for you debug. If you turn that on, it could be good for your debugging, or say you want to do some audit purpose. Instructions is for prompt engineering. So you can have all the prompt engineer you want in the instruction. But again, this is optional. Message is basically for the context memory, so you can have some prior messages in there, so that LLM understand the context. You don't really need a strict. So later in the demo, I can show you. You can make a scope by yourself to limit it to the behavior you like. And sampling temperature is the same as before. This basically the sampling temperature is model specific. And pay attention, so this number is not universal. So the one I put in here, the range from 0 to 2 and the default 1, this is the GPT-4 number. So for example, GPT-3, don't use this one. GPT-3, the range is 0 to 1, default is 0.7. So if you want to play around with that, I would suggest you check the model which you want to do this kind of fine tuning and to adjust that. But normally speaking, the 0 means most deterministic, very few randomness, and like 2 maxima means most creative. And tool definition is the heart of the script step. So you can define the tool whatever you like in the JSON format. So right now we support 3 kinds of tools. First one is SQL. So kind of like you can use this one to do whatever the perform SQL query by natural language. Second one is image. So that help you to manage manage image in container field of FileMaker database. the third one is custom function. So to allow you to integrate your FileMaker custom function. And streaming mode is the same like before, so you can decide the final output in streaming mode or not. Okay, so here is a quick demo about this script step. So again, I'm in the contact database, so let's quickly check that I have A contacts in the database. And you can see like this simple layout breakdown instruction for prompt engineering, message for the memory, and tool is the tool definition. That's quite a lot, even for only two functions. And you can see that there are quite a lot of prompt engineering in there to tell LLM how to handle this, how to generate SQL as we expect. And the one important thing is this create table context. This tell it the schema of the contact table, so it will generate the correct SQL statement. So now I ask a question: how many contacts in my database? So it get 8, so get the correct number. So then I continue asking which company they are working for. So this one, technically speaking, if you just use this one, that makes sense. But if in the memory with the context, that makes sense. If I know both Titan and Richard are working for Claris, so you might ask, there are 8, how come you return 2? The reason is I put in the message memory, the prior message actually only talk about these 2 persons. So you can see the scope effect of this message context memory. So if you have something very simple, you don't need to enter anything. Just where is the capital of France? So you find out that's Paris for you. So the next one is to integrate with the custom function. So like here, I define there are 2 custom functions to be used: get temperature for a city and get city by zip code. So please pay attention. The define in here in the need to match exactly what you define in the FileMaker database, both the custom function name and parameters. So say that I ask temperature of a city with zip code 95014, which is Cupertino. So if we got it correctly, the Cupertino 95014 is 58 degrees Fahrenheit. So what it went through is first you look up the get city from zip code, and the second, then you get as Cupertino, then get temperature for Cupertino. Okay, so that's it for the demo. So sometimes you might need to do debugging if the results is different as you expect. So we create this set AI call login for you. So you can have it to turn on the debugging log when you need it, and then turn it off when you don't need it. So first, the parameter is on-off switch, and second parameter is the file name. So in this example, I use fmllm log. So you will appear as fmllm log.log file, and it will be in your documents directory. And the next one is the verbose mode. So you can decide to have a verbose mode on or off. The next one is truncate the message. So truncate message is primarily for embedding vectors. Now, consider the embedding vector for the OpenAI text model 3 large is bigger than 3,000 dimensions. So it does make sense you see every single number in there. So feel free to turn on truncate messages. So that probably make your debug log much readable. And some of you probably familiar with the Claris config.json file on server. So if you want to use that, you can use that one as well. You just turn on the debug flag LLM to true. So it will generate a debug log for you. But difference is the fine granularity control. So this one have a better fine granularity control. And say on server, when you turn on the LLM debug flag, all the all the server processes, script engine, CWPC, or data API, if you exercise any of them, they will log in there. So that's depends on your purpose. But sometimes when you get the result, you got a sequel. That's not as you expect. So when that happens, one way to improve it is you can try to put annotation to your schema. So we have using this the comment, the tag bracket, LLM bracket. So here is one example of my colleagues, the basketball club database. So here you can see I put the bracket, LLM bracket here, and I tell it this is score of the quarter. A game has several quarters. So it first explain what this one is. Second one is tell it this is one-to-many relationship for this score. And second example here for the KF underscore player. So I put the bracket, tell it this is a foreign key of players. So this table is games. So player and games actually have this relationship. And so here is the thing is when you're doing this, if you don't put any annotation, then the DDL generation will take all the field for you and send over to the LLM. But once you start to put this annotation, it will only take those fields with annotation over, and also take your comment. So simply put this way, you treat the LLM as an expert DBA. So you just treat as a person, expert DBA. You explain what your schema is, and they will generate correct SQL statement for you. So with this, with the debug log and with the get SQL, so then hopefully that can help you to troubleshoot.
So let's see, you have 10 fields there, but if I only key 5 of those fields, are only 5 of those fields included in that DLM, or will it still grab all and just adds clarity to those?
Yeah, good question. So the question is, say there are 10 fields, only put the 5 fields with the bracket, LLM bracket. So the answer is only those 5 with the annotation will be included in your DDL. It will leave out the other 5. Yeah, and sometimes that's intentional, because if you say that's not related, then why you want to waste the process time and network? Thank you. So the next topic is embedding vectors. So since this is the third one, I just quickly overview about that. So we support both binary format and text format. However, I recommend you use the binary format. So it's very simple. You just store that in the container field. It will store as a binary format. If you store in the text field, it will be text format. And even you have binary format, then when you need it anytime for export or for whatever purpose, you just use the calc function to translate that to a text format. So here is the insert embedding script step. So it's quite straightforward. You specify account name, and then in here I use OpenAI as an example, the text embedding 3 small. And then you specify where the input is and where you want to store target. So the target, if you specify target in the container field, it will be binary. And we also provide a corresponding calc function. So you can use calc function to get embedding as well. And when you use calc function, it will use a binary format. And if you need to generate embedding for the whole table or font set, we have another one for you. So the difference, there are two couple of options here. One is to replace target content, another one continuum error. The thing is when you use this bulk mode, try to get embedding vectors from LLM, most of LLM server is throttling. So sometimes you might get a failure. So inside the DB engine, we try our best to retry handle error for you, but sometimes you still can see error. So then that's the reason we give you option. You want to continue on error or not. And since you might need to run it more than once, so give you the option whether you want to replace or say you just want to fill in those haven't finished yet. Parameters like before, this is a LLM specific parameter. If you do need to have a special parameter for LLM sentence transformer, you can put in there. In the newest version, we put another option here. So for summary, so if you click summary after this script step finish, it will tell you how many embedding back got and how many skip, how many error you got. So the one thing to remind you is that please don't mix embedding vector from different models. So if for the embedding vector with different size, we will return error to you if in case extender use it. But for the same size, if you get from different models, cannot detect, but the results will be unpredictable. And we add a couple of operations for you. So here is a simple illustration. Embedding vector Apple plus embedding vector phone will be very close to embedding vector iPhone. So that's kind of close to what people normally think. The same thing, say you have embedding vector king, if you minus embedding vector male plus embedding vector female, that's very close to queen. So we have a two calc function for you, so you can add two embedding vector together. At the same thing, you can subtract one embedding vector from the other. And we also provide a normalized embedding vector for you, so you can normalize the embedding vector either the whole thing or with some sub-dimension. The OpenAI's document tell people, so if your natural language mix with several languages, the sentence transformer text embedding 3 large is better for that. However, the dimension so big is more than 3,000. So you can take, say, the first 512 or first 256. So if you do that, you need to normalize the vector. So then you can use this calc function to normalize the vector for you.
Quick question there. Could we use that to, if we've got an embedding that's already normalized, but it was like one of the Matroska embeddings, could we use that to just simply reduce to the smaller number of dimensions?
Yeah, we can, but you basically the reduce is more kind of cut. Yeah. So say like the OpenAI case, right? They are more than 3,000 dimensions. You only want 256. So you basically normalize embedding the vector you want to normalize, and say 256.
So there, because there are some embedding models that are designed to predict that for
That's right. Yeah. And thank you. And the background reason is when we do the normalization, and when we do the cosine simulation calculation, so with the normalized embedding vectors, both denominator will become 1. So then we don't need to calculate that. So that means that save time and your hardware resource. Okay, so the next one is semantic search. So for the remote semantic search, actually we can't implement that in the FileMaker 2024. So right now we extended. So in case if you have your text or image in one table and the embedding vector on a separate table, the remote semantic search still can help you to save time. And here is the script step to perform the semantic find. So the first one, you specify what you want to use to do semantic search. You can have a natural language. That means you give a text, or you give a vector, or you give the image. If you use like a clip, the model, which can handle both. And so, and here are the parameters you can set. For record set, you can set either all records or just the font set. Target field is where you have the embedding vectors. And return count, that simply means you want to the top K or bottom K, right? So by default, we use the cosine similarity condition. What we have is greater than. So if you change to less than or equal, so that means the K you specify here become bottom K. And the cosine similarity value, that's a threshold. So for that one, I will suggest you, if you want to set a threshold, try to run it through on your data, quickly see what's the data distribution. The cosine similarity for two vectors, how close they are, actually depends from model to model. For some model, 0.5 could means very close. Even you might think that 1 is the best one, but some model 0.5 could means close. Some model could be 0.25 also means close. So you run the data and to see the data distribution, then you can pick a good threshold if you want. The saved results will save the result, the result with the record ID and the cosine similarity value. So that's good when you run on the server side, you don't see the UI. Or say you just want to see the cosine similarity value. So because the result we give you back is the record ID, so then we create another script step. Go to list of record script step. So if you give the result over and use a go to list of record script step, you can bring you those records. And that's also good for the data API. I think some customers asking for data API with this script step for some time. Okay, so the next one is to do regression on embedding vectors. So we implement a random forest. So here is a simple illustration of random forest. In here, I have a 3 decision trees. So during the training time, it will create multiple decision trees, and you can limit the maximum number of decision trees you can have. And it randomly select a subset of data to bootstrap it. And each tree is trained on a different subset. And it randomly select feature during the training. So ultimately, it average of all tree output for you as the regression result. That means you use that one to predict. So, and here is a script step to train the regression model. So there are 4 actions available. You can choose to train the model. You can save the model. You can load or unload. Load and unload means to memory. Yeah. So when you do train the model, inside there you can choose to save right away instead of call it another time. And after you train, it definitely the model is in the memory. And here are the parameters you can set for the script step. So you specify the field which have the training vector field. That means your embedding vector, where your embedding vector is. And then you specify the target field. Target field normally is the field with number. So I will show you an example with Amazon review, and they have a score. So the score is from 1 to 5. So that's a target field. And the next one is skip empty and embedded record. I highly recommend you to pick this option. Consider the empty and embedded record could skew your result. And the parameters, there are several parameters you can define to train the random forest. So by default, you can ignore this. And we set some default training parameter for you, like the number of trees 10 and the maximum depth 10, the minimal sample split 2, and the number of feature -1. -1 means all. And the maximum feature to use in training is also 1. So 1 means take a square root of the features. And after you train the model, then we have another calc function called predict from model. So you can just tell it the train model name and the vector the embedding vector you want to predict. So you can predict from model to get your your score, your results. And after that, I would suggest you evaluate on a testing data set to see how good it is. A common algorithm for that is the mean square error. What mean square error means is you have this ground truth, you know the exact score, and you run through the predict from model, have another score. So you basically do a subtraction and then square. You will make a square to get rid of the plus minus issue. Then sum them all up and divide by number of samples. So that's a mean square error. So here is a quick demo. I have the Amazon review here. And you can see the combined field, it basically combines both summary and text. So that actually from internet, they combine already. And I generate embedding vector for them. So now let's take a look at the training script step. So here I pick the train model and simply call the model. That might not be a good name. Right now we only have random forest. So then you specify your embedding vector field and specify your target field, which is the score field. And definitely I skip empty or invalid records. And then I specify some parameter here. So I specify maximum parameter, the number of trees is 32, and the maximum depth is 16, and minimum sample split 4. And the number of feature, max feature, basically I want everything. So the -1 and the 0 means I want all the features in there. So let's just simply run it. So I fast forward. So it takes 41 seconds to complete on my M1 Max laptop. So actually not too bad. So you can tune the parameter and keep running. And right now I run the predict. So predict finish. You can see some of them got exact match. So let's run the. Yeah. So right now not predict finish it. Right now let's run the MSE. So let's see what error we got. So we got the MSE error 0.5. So whether it's good or not, it totally depends on your accept criteria. But however, I only use 500 records for training. Technically speaking, that's too small. So definitely, if you want for production, I would suggest you have a much bigger data set, probably at least 1,000. Okay, so then I would like to introduce Derek Lee to show you some more exciting features. Derek?
Thank you. All right. Let's give Wade one more round of applause, please. All right. So lots of new features. I'm going to talk about 4 more and exciting features. So first, if you went to the fireside chat earlier, you probably heard about the perform find by natural language. What this does basically is we're taking the layout fields and also the user query and we're sending it to the LLM. If we look at the diagram here, one click, another click, there we go. We have the LLM here and we're going to take the fields in the current layout and the query and we're going to send it to the LLM. In return, we're going to get the FileMaker search and sort specification. So like Wade had mentioned before, this can either be search or sort or a combination of both. We then can perform 3 different types of responses. So the first response I'm going to talk about is the found set. So if you're running this script step and you select this option, it'll actually perform the find right on the FileMaker client. So this just takes all the natural language that you found and then it's going to show you directly what it's found. The second one is the found set in JSON. So this is a very, very powerful response where you can use the FileMaker DAPI to make a call or even make a response or a query. Finally, the find request in JSON allows users to see exactly what we get back from the LLM. So if you get a query that you don't really like, you can use this to debug and see what results you get. So similar to the perform SQL query by natural language, we also get parameters. So you can adjust things such as temperature or model-specific parameters for OpenAI or the other model providers that we support. We also, similar to getTable DDL, we also have we're introducing this calc function called getFieldsOnLayout. So this calculation function, you can either provide a layout name or you can use the default, which is just nothing. If you do nothing, it'll just provide all of the fields of the layout that are findable. So just for like this current script step, if nothing, just like a find request, if it's not findable, you won't be able to use this script step to use a natural language query. So similar to Wade's demo, we kind of integrated Siri a little bit here. So I'm going to show you this basketball statistics database. So here there's a lot of players, a lot of stats, a lot of information, but I want to find players that have scored more than 1,000 points. So hopefully I don't trigger you guys' Siri, but that's why I didn't record the voice. We can ask Siri, perform find by natural language. So this is all built into the current version, not the current version, but the Siri shortcuts is the current version. But you'll be able to ask questions like, find me players that have scored more than 1,000 points. So we're able to modify the last find, and we're able to see, once we enlarge it a little bit, that it shows the correct results. So this can be a little more complex, but you can see here all the results are completely correct. So that's an example of just the search spec. Now let's look into an example of the sort spec. So for this example, I want to search for players that have scored the greatest 3-point percentage. And similar to FileMaker find requests, you can't search like, give me only the top one. It'll just sort it. So for this, again, I'm going to demonstrate using Siri. Amazing. Perform find by my natural language. And we're going to ask, find me the players who have the greatest 3-point percentage. So here, you'll see all the players like I mentioned before. But once we go to the sort, we'll actually see that the players are sorted by the greatest 3-point percentage. Amazing, right? So let's take this a step further. So I've shown everything in English, but with the other enhancements for the LLM, we can also use the multilingual functions with OpenAI. So for here, I'm going to demonstrate the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean text. And for this example, I'm going to find players who have scored more than 200 assists. So we're going to call my perform find by natural language. And then we're going to search for players who have the most assists. So since this is in English, I translated it for you guys. And as you can see here, the results shown here have players that have more than 200 assists. We're going to modify the last find, and we're going to see that the results here do show players with more than 200 assists. So this is a great example of turning natural language into FileMaker find requests. So for users that don't really know how to use or perform find requests, you can use this script step and allow and enhance the whole workflow using LLMs. Thank you, everyone. So I just showed you a really basic example, but you can actually dive way more deep into what we've done with LLMs. So what we've done is provided this custom prompt template, which allows admins and server admins to customize the exact prompts that we've sent. So we support 3 different types of models and the open source model server, but each time they release a new model, they get fine-tuned or like turned a little bit for different types of prompts. So the prompts that we release might not actually work for what those new model types might, be released for. So here we allow users to customize the prompts, and this supports the 3 main script steps that allow users to query by natural language. So the first one is perform SQL query by natural language. The second is what I just talked about, the perform find by natural language. And the last is the RAG prompt for summarization. So here I've provided some macros on what we substitute within the DB engine layer. Here the question and the context are all substituted in, but the questions is really what you provide into the script step. So you can leave those as is, but for the context and the other schema information, you can kind of turn around and perform some prompt engineering to add some values that you may see fit for your specific model type. So like Wade had mentioned, we have the get table DDL, but we also have the get fields on layout. So once you get those values as calculations, you can add more information or add more data that you see fit to describe your database. So let's walk through it quickly. I don't have an amazing video, but I can show you some amazing images that will do the justice. So here we're going to perform this configure prompt template, and once we create it, we can set the template name, the model provider, and also the template type. So it's interesting to note here that we have different model templates for each different types of models. So here I've selected custom, but you can see the different types of prompts for OpenAI and Anthropic that we perform. Also, we have the template type. So like all of the 3 types of script steps that we support, you'll have to specify specifically which one you want to use it for. So if you want something for the perform SQL by a natural language, you'll have to select that. and you can't really mix and match the find requests as such. So once you click specify, you'll be able to see the exact prompt that we send. So here, there's a lot of text here. You don't have to digest all of it, but once you kind of get FileMaker 2025, you'll be able to see this more in action. But you can add and remove rules that will better fit the results that you're looking for. So for summarization, if you want something that's more concise, you can add that rule here. So if we go back to our perform find by natural language, we're actually able to specify the prompt name. And just like Wade had mentioned before, you can do that for the perform SQL query by natural language and also for the RAG summarization. So that's a really important and great segue to the open source model server. So in FileMaker 2024, we released a Python server that allows users to run their own embedding models. So we've enhanced this greatly, and we've provided a lot of new features. One, within the FileMaker admin console, you can, set up, start, and manage the entire server from the admin console. Second, we've added security built in, so we've added JWT tokens that you can create from within the admin console. I'll preview that in a second, but we'll talk more about the other features. And finally, we have the manage and add Hugging Face tokens. So what this does is for our text generation models, there's specific licenses that you'll have to acknowledge. So once you acknowledge those licenses, you'll be able to manage the Hugging Face tokens here. So to set the whole thing up, you'll see this dialog here that will ask you to go to the MiniForge page. Once you create the installer and you download it, you're able to upload it to this page here. So once you have the whole thing set up, you're able to manage models. So here, you may have seen in the past, some of these models may be familiar to you, but users may first download models here and also load and unload models. So for each different type of model, we only allow one concurrent model. Since these are all extremely memory intensive, especially for the text generation, we only allow one so that it's not fighting with the other FileMaker server processes on your system. So to also prevent users from downloading whatever model they choose, server admins will have to acknowledge the download of the model here. So you'll see a dialog similar to this that will ask you to acknowledge it. So let's take a look at the easy setup for the open source model server. So this is the FileMaker admin console, very, very familiar, but there's a new LLM services tab. So once we go into that tab, we'll see that dialog that I just showed you before. I'm going to upload my installer and then click upload. So automatically the installation will start. And this will take a little bit of time, but I've sped it up here for the purposes of the demo. Once it's complete, you'll be able to see the open source model server will just start running. And when it's completely prepared, it will show you the list of settings. There's a lot of settings, but I'll talk about it in a little second. But this is a really great preview on how we can set up the open source model server within the FileMaker server admin console. So like I talked about with managing Hugging Face tokens, users will have to create a Hugging Face account. So once we create this account, we'll have to go to the access token page and create a new token. So this is going to be specific just for FileMaker, and we're going to give it a name, and we only have to check off the read access to contents of public gated repos that you can access. You don't need to give it any other permissions, just access to read the repos that you have access to. So once we get the token, we can go back to the FileMaker admin console and paste it in here. At any point, if you decide to revoke your Hugging Face token, you can just revoke it here or even change out the token for whatever reason you may need. So to talk a little bit about text generation, we're going to talk about the model that we recommend, which is the Code Gemma model. So for the purposes of on-premise server, sometimes the machines that we have may not be extremely powerful, but we use and recommend this model because it seems to generate the correct results. So for now, if you go to this model card page, you'll see this little big dialog called Acknowledge License. It may seem a little scary, but once you click Acknowledge License, it will, oh, that was a little scary. It will take you to this Acknowledge License page. So once you do that, it will take you to this nice page here that will ask you to authorize or deny. So this is just for Kaggle, but after this, once you click authorize, it'll take you to the Google license page. So once you read through that, you're able to approve it, and then you'll take you to this, back to the page before that will show you that you have access to the model. So at any point, you can actually return back to this model card page if you're logged in and see that you still have access to it. If Google decides to change the license, you may see that previous dialog that we showed before that's asking you to approve the license again. So now back to the list of the FileMaker open source model server settings. So we have first features that we can enable and disable here. So we talked a little bit about embedding and text generation and RAG, but you can just turn those on and off at any point. We also have server-specific settings here, including PKI JWT tokens, and also for preloading and load previous models. We also have a section here for default models. So when you first start up the open source model server, it can preload specific models for users to use. So if you change this and you decide to restart the open source model server, it will load those models automatically. And finally, a really good segue actually, we have a whole section on RAG settings. So I'm going to talk about RAG next, which is the retrieval augmented generation. So we've done a lot with embedding vectors, but what this really does is it allows users to cache knowledge documents within the open source model server. So users are able to ask questions then on the donated text or the PDF and get correct results on those questions. So the greatest advantage about RAG is it actually reduces hallucinations. So because if you may have learned about semantic search, we generate embedded vectors for everything within the data set. So here's what the environment looks like. So we have RAG, the FileMaker client, and an LLM. So let's donate some text and some PDFs. So behind the scenes, we're going to generate embedding vectors, and store those within the open source model server. So now a user on a FileMaker client can use the perform RAG action to then query the RAG server. So once we send that query, we return with the top K results. By default, this is 20, but you can adjust this as you see please. So then we send these results back to the LLM, and we get a little summary for the question that we asked. And so in essence, when you perform the action for RAG prompt, this is what happens. So let's create an LLM key. So I'm going to go ahead and create an LLM key here, and you can see that we're going to call it RAG key and only access to RAG. But you can see the other features there, so you can enable different types of features. We're going to enable it for everything, and then we're going to just set it for 3 months. And that's how simple it is to create a RAG key. So now we're going to go back to my RAG database. And here I have a simple script step that will configure the account. So once I configure the account, I can put my endpoint and also my API key here. So now to demonstrate the abilities of RAG, I'm going to show you that I haven't asked any questions before or added any data. So I'm going to ask first, what's the name of the company? So once we query, you'll see a little error, which is expected. But once we add this PDF document which has information about a company, we can then donate that to RAG. Now when we ask the same question, we can see the answer is correctly populated here. If we ask questions like, what is their mission? We can also get the correct results here. So I'm going to ask a little funny question about who owns the bakery. And we can see that the document here that we donated actually has no idea what is there. So I'm just going to let RAG know that Wade and I actually own the bakery. Who knows, right? One day. So once we add this into the RAG, we can actually then send the query and see that it's able to answer the question now. So at any point, you can actually add more information or more text documents to the RAG. Now to go back to the RAG settings that I kind of left off from, we have a couple of settings that will allow you to customize RAG to your liking. First, we have the top K of results for RAG summarization. So like I said before, that's set to 20, but you can increase that or decrease that as you see please. But just notice that when you increase the number, you're actually sending more data to summarization. So it may confuse the LLM a little bit or just add a little too much data. Second, we can customize the RAG cache folder path. And by default, this is encrypted, so you can't really see the data. But what you can do here is specify this path to a different drive. We also allow users to use OpenAI to generate embeddings. So if you do specify and want to use OpenAI, you can set the OpenAI key here along with the embedding model that you want to use. And I should have had a big alert here, but just like Wade said earlier, don't mix embedding models. So if you decide to change your embedding model or decide to switch from the open source model to the OpenAI, you're going to have to regenerate all those RAG spaces. And like I said before, we also give access control, which is all built in, which allows users to add data, remove data, and also send prompts to the RAG. So if you only want certain users to have access to the prompt section, you can do that with the LLM keys. Just remember when you have the remove data, it removes everything within the space. because everything is stored in embedding vectors, when you use remove data, just be extremely careful. So now a great application of RAG is the text-to-script and text-to-calc. So if you went to the opening keynote, you probably saw Ronnie's demo for the text-to-calc. So here we want to generate calc statements and scripts without hallucinations. So we're going to take natural language text and then turn that into calculations and scripts. So now here's a really big diagram that will show you how this all works. So we take the natural language prompt and we send it over to the LLM. We ask it to break it down into simple statements, and then we send it to RAG to get the top K results. We take all of the top K results and then put it into a script and calculation bank. From there, we ask the LLM to then generate the complete calculation and the complete script. That result is then put into the script dialog or into the calculation dialog or the script workspace. So here's that in action. So we're going to generate a calculation that finds the next weekday. And since I shot this demo over the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and just generate this calc statement. So it'll take a little bit of time since it's asking RAG, but it generates this calculation statement here. We're then able to run it and click OK. And once we run the statement, we're able to see that the date that is generated is 3/24/25, which was Monday. Same thing with scripts. We're going to ask it to generate a script that will count from 1 to 5. So with some time, you can see that the script is actually generated and populated into the script workspace. So using RAG, we can prove that there's less hallucinations, and also that RAG can play an important role in determining what type of data we use and asking questions on it. So you guys have been sitting for a while now, and there's a lot of features with the FileMaker 2025. But hopefully today you've learned about chatting with database systems and queries, and also the important improvements we made to the embedding vectors and semantic search, including embedding summary, and also the new feature with the regression and random forest algorithms and how you can perform predictions, and how, like I showed before, RAG and the open source model server improvements. Yes?
Is now question time?
Give me like 30 seconds, if that's okay. While he asks his question, please rate the session. That was what I was gonna do. And also, when you guys are asking questions, I'll hand a mic, so don't ask the question until I hand you the mic, if that's okay with everyone. All right, thank you, everyone. I'll hand it to him first. Here you go.
Do you foresee in the future the ability to generate layouts by text?
Oh, I can't say anything about that, unfortunately. But AI is very powerful.
I hadn't seen that before, but I really wanted to reconfirm. Was that the ability to generate your script from AI?
It's just a preview. Nothing's set in stone yet, but calculations are there.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Thank you, Angie. Who's next? We got one over here. I can hand it to him, too. There we go. Here we go.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you can add the LLMs in your admin console, but I think it would be great to run it on a worker machine or something. Like, we have the possibility to set up workers. I think it makes more sense to run it on a worker, no, than on your main database machine. So maybe that's a good idea.
I also can't answer that one. But I could defer it to one of these two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you are right. But it makes more sense, especially the memory and computation.
Yeah, and we already have that infrastructure with worker machines, so I think maybe, yeah. Good idea? Yeah, Ronnie, you agree? Okay, check.
All right, other questions? Oh, lots. Okay. Thank you, Angie.
Will the Siri functionality be available on iPhone, like for the Go app?
So the great thing is the Siri shortcuts that we demoed with Wade and also in my sections, they're all already available in the current market version. So you can donate scripts into the Siri shortcuts?
Siri shortcuts.
Yeah, sure, Siri shortcuts. Okay. And then you can then call those with the parameters that you provide. Yeah. So that currently exists.
I think we can have some engineer block to show you how we did that. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Isaac. Yep. Oh, I should have ran that one. I could have passed it back.
Thank you. Yeah, follow the same question. I know in the training, even in the certification for AI that we have today, they say they don't recommend to install the AI server in the same machine on the master server of the database. Now we have this on the admin console. What is the impact for that on the server? And is there any plan to actually have that as a separate machine, a kind of a worker, but actually a separate computer that you can train or even combine together for more services? Because I mean, we need to use it as a helper as an API call from the system to define where's the custom model to embed the images of the text, then a vectorization of the texting of the containers. Well, is we want to use that as for example, in my case, as a vertical solution. Will you recommend to use that in each server for each client, or basically having that in a separate place that we can use as a custom model, not as an OpenAI or Cohere?
Well, I think there are several questions in there. So I think definitely the thing is if the model you use a lot of memory, computation power, definitely makes sense to have a worker machine. You might even have more than one worker machine. But the reason we demo that in one machine, technically speaking, we a little bit tie on resource for release. So to test it with different machine. So not to say we don't want you to run on second machine. But the second question, if I understand correctly, you are asking, say, whether the embedding vector could be go to the open source model machine. Is that right? Yeah. So for the RAG, actually the RAG, those embedding vectors are in the open source model machine. Yeah. So if you're talking about the other semantic search one, right now is sit with the database server, that's separate from the open source model machine.
Yeah. You would run the embedding on the open source machine, and then with every result using the RAG on the embedding search too. That's the result already running down the server.
Yeah.
And also, what we've noticed is the embedding models, embedding generation models take less memory. The text generation is the beefy one. So, all right, I can. Thank you. There we go.
So along those same lines, if I have my primary server, but then I just take the installer on a second machine to install the LLM, would that be available?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we can actually do that today with your, well, in the
Yes.
next release.
Yes. In the first release, you'll be able to just do that while we work on making it a worker machine installation. Right. So you can do that.
Yeah, and within the LLM services tab, you'll be able to see like the endpoints. So those endpoints are available to any machine on your network. So similar to like WebDirect, which you can access like on a URL, you can do the same for the open source model server.
Cool.
So all the certificates that you install for the FileMaker server will also apply to the open source model server as well.
Good answer.
Thank you. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you guys for attending.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.